Reading is awesome! And so are you, and so is this book. It's called Wake Up, Santa Claus by Marcus Pfister. I'm guessing Santa Claus is asleep. That's why the book is called Wake Up, Santa Claus. One winter day, the forest lay peacefully sleeping under a thick blanket of snow. An old wooden house stood in a small clearing. Nothing stirred, but the contented sound of snoring drifted outside. Someone was asleep, nestled deep in the warm feather bed. Only the lump under the covers and the tip of his nightcap showed that he was there. It was Santa Claus. Slowly, he turned and poked his nose above the covers. He blinked and yawned and glanced at the clock on his little bedside table. Then he sat up with a start. How could he have slept through the alarm clock on today of all days? He'd really have to rush to deliver the children's presents on time. He jumped out of bed and ran to find his clothes. Trousers, jacket, hat. Where was his hat? On his head, of course. Now for his boots. He found one under the bed. Good. But where was the other? On top of the cupboard? Behind the door? In the chest? He looked under the bed again. The boot had vanished. At last, he saw the shiny black toe peeking out from under the curtain. "There you are," he said to the boot. "Stop laughing at me. I'm late." And he ran for the door. But when he pulled it, he was trapped by a wall of snow as high as his chin. On this page, it said Santa Claus was looking for his trousers, jacket, and hat. Do you know what trousers are? Trousers are another word for pants. He was looking for his pants. And then when he found all his clothes and his boots, he was trapped by a wall of snow as tall as his chin. Oh no. With a groan, he picked up his shovel and he dug his way through the heavy snow. Slowly, he cleared a path across the garden, through the gate, and out to the stable. He leaned against the door to catch his breath. "Phew! I've done it," he said thankfully. But it had taken hours. Hours he didn't have. Oh no, poor Santa. Santa Claus opened the stable doors and greeted his reindeer. They were warm and wanted to stay in their stall, so he had to coax them out one by one. Have you ever been warm in your bed and someone had to coax you out, talk you into leaving your bed? Quickly, he buckled up their harnesses, pushed the sleigh out onto the snow, and hitched up the reindeer. Then he swung into his seat, took up the reins, and stopped. He had a funny feeling. He had forgotten something. He looked over his shoulder. The sleigh was empty. "The sack!" he cried. "I nearly forgot the presents!" Oh no, Santa is having a really rough day. He ran back into the house and found the sack leaning against the fireplace in his living room. Santa dragged it over to the door, but no matter how he pushed and shoved and dragged and tugged, the sack wouldn't fit through the door. There was nothing else to do. He would have to put all the presents into smaller sacks. He raced to the cellar and found 3 sacks. Then he began to unpack all the presents. Apples, nuts, and oranges rolled all over the floor. Santa Claus had to scramble to gather them up and stuff them in the sacks. Finally, he was finished. Out of breath, he loaded the sacks into the sleigh and jumped up on his seat. "Ready at last, my friends! Off we go!" But the reindeer wouldn't budge. They stamped their feet and snorted. "Of course. What was I thinking?" said Santa Claus. "I was in such a hurry, I forgot to feed you. How could you ever go such a distance on empty stomachs?" Quickly, he brought out 2 big bales of hay and 2 buckets of water. Slowly and steadily, the reindeer began to eat. It was getting cold, and more snow was beginning to fall. Santa Claus hopped impatiently from foot to foot. Santa's hopping to help keep his feet warm and because he's impatient and ready to leave. Finally, the reindeer had eaten their fill. For the 3rd time, Santa Claus climbed up on his sleigh. "Hey ho! Off we go!" he cried. The reindeer pulled with all their might. They leaned into the harness and strained with their legs, but the sleigh seemed to be stuck to the ground. Suddenly, it moved forward with a jerk, slipped a few feet, then stuck again. Santa Claus got down and wiped the snow from the runners. The fine, smooth blades that he kept polished so carefully all year were suddenly cracked and covered with rust. No wonder the sleigh was stuck. Santa Claus was close to tears. "What a nightmare!" he cried. "We'll never make it, even if I push." But push he did, and when that didn't work, he pulled. The snow fell faster and thicker, and soon he couldn't even see the sleigh. He knew the reindeer were struggling with him. He felt their warm breath. But when the track disappeared in the blowing snow, he had no idea where to go. Oh my. Sick at heart, he followed the harness back to the sleigh and climbed in. The reindeer couldn't move forwards or backwards. They were stuck chest deep in the heavy snow. It was hopeless. Then, from off in the distance, he heard the soft ringing of bells. The sound grew nearer and nearer and louder until... What? Until what? Turn the page! Turn the page! Santa Claus woke up! He sat up and turned off the alarm clock. Was it really only a dream? He hopped out of bed and quickly got dressed. His 2 boots stood neatly under the chair, just where he had left them. Cautiously, he opened the door to look outside. The path to the stable was clear of snow. He ran out to check on the reindeer. They were happily eating hay from their mangers. And the runners on the sleigh were polished like mirrors. Santa Claus jumped for joy. Whew, I'm so relieved. Yay. He ran back to the house. The presents were stuffed in the sack, but it wasn't too big to fit through the doorway. He loaded it into the sleigh and harnessed up the reindeer. Without a backward glance, Santa Claus shouted, "Hey ho! Off we go!" And the sleigh slipped like a snowflake across the open trail. Then, with a surge of speed, the reindeers bounced into the air, and the sleigh rose gently up and disappeared into the cold, moonlit sky. I don't know about you, but I'm so glad this story had a happy ending. I'm so glad that Santa was able to get everything worked out in his dream and woke up, and Christmas Eve was able to happen like it should. He shouldn't have had any issues with sleeping in past his alarm or finding his clothes to wear, his trousers, his jacket, his hat and boots. He wouldn't have to search for any of that. It was all exactly where he left it. He didn't have to shovel any snow. The path was cleared. And he didn't have to worry about the sleigh being empty. The sack was filled with toys, and he had no problem at all getting that sack out of the house and onto the sleigh. And he didn't spill anything this time either. Yay. In real life, it was so much better than his dream. In his dream, he forgot to feed the reindeer. But in reality, the reindeer had food in their mangers. And do you remember when the runners on the sleigh became rusty and wouldn't pull through the snow? And they got stuck. Oh, it was such a bad dream that Santa had. I'm so glad that when he heard the bells ringing, it was his alarm to wake him up. Did you notice on the page where he woke up, there's a picture of the rainbow fish? The author, Marcus Pfister, wrote The Rainbow Fish and this book, Wake Up Santa Claus. I think both of those books are awesome. I also think you are awesome. And I know you know that I think reading is awesome. I do. I think reading is awesome. I also look forward to Christmas. So, just a reminder, lay out some sort of treat for Santa and his reindeer on Christmas Eve, and we'll read another book again soon.